Brought to you by C Prime, an Atlassian Platinum and Enterprise Solution Partner, and an Atlassian Verified Vendor. Power Scripts for Jira.
In this video, we're going to talk about the SIL scheduler. The SIL scheduler lets you run scripts at specified time intervals or specified days and times. This could be very helpful for scripts that are perhaps performance intensive, or if you don't want to disrupt users, or they need to run often but are not scripts that can be called from within a workflow or from a listener or some other method. So let's talk about how you schedule the SIL scripts with the scheduler, and then we can go into some use cases as to why you would use it. So the scheduler interface is very similar to the listener interface. I'm just going to jump down here and say you pick your script, and then you pick a user to run the script as. Otherwise, your script might not have the appropriate permissions to edit or access some fields and projects. So good best practice would be to create a service user. Make sure you add that service user to your project so you don't have any permissions problems when your scripts run. And you can pass arguments. So if you have one script that takes parameters, perhaps you have it schedule different days of the week to do different admin tasks on different projects. You can just pass the project as an argument here. So you have two types of schedules. You have interval and cron. Now, interval uses a value of the same syntax as regular interval fields in Jira. So if you're logging work, the syntax you use to log work would be the same syntax you use to schedule a job. For example, if I wanted to run my reindex script every 24 hours, I could just do 24H. And then because I have this repeatable checkbox check, this script would run every 24 hours. Or, in this example, because I unchecked it's repeatable, this script will run 30 minutes from now and then delete itself from the scheduler once it's been executed because it's not repeatable. So that's how you use intervals. Cron is different. So cron is very powerful, and it lets you schedule events, say, for 9:30 on Fridays every other week or something like that. That's the power behind cron, but cron has its own syntax. So for me, cron's one of those things you learn, but then you don't use it often enough, so you forget it, and then you have to relearn how to do it every time. So I love to just Google for a cron generator, and you come across a site like this cron tab generator, and you can kind of get an idea of what you can do with cron. You schedule it to run every so many minutes. You schedule it to run specific hours, specific days, specific months, specific weekdays. So let's say I wanted only Fridays, even months at midnight. please enter a command. We'll just copy and paste that in, see if we can get our command. So this is our cron syntax. So what you would do, you paste that and hope it works, which it did not. And the reason it didn't work was this cron only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters it's using. So I jumped over to this other cron maker and it says it's using quartz cron format. And when you generate cron with this guy, it has a lot more. So make sure you want to use the long version, like the quartz cron. So now, when I enter this, and then it'll tell you when your cron will run next. So that is basically it. Scratch that. That's not it. So like I said, you can see the power, which you can really drill down to exactly when you want your script to run. Sometimes when the Jira system restarts, when cron issues don't seem to get saved during a system restart, and I believe it's because it's using the cron on the system itself, and where the intervals are stored in the database. I believe it has something to do with where the script is entered. I'm not sure. So if I come over to SIL Scheduler, this isn't it. I need. All right, so you have this concept of these start and stop scripts, and what this does is when Jira is rebooted and it starts up, you can set it to run a script, and when it's shut down, you can set it to run a script. And there are these routines you can use to check by the script path. You can see if there's a job scheduled for that script, and if there's not, you can create the job by using this routine to you just pass the file, some arguments, and the cron. So what you would do is you would have a script that would set up these cron jobs as your start script. So let me jump back over. Now at first, I was a little confused by shutdown script, but then I thought of some interesting use cases for the shutdown script, doing things like running any last-minute sync jobs between remote systems, writing log messages to yourself using the write and file routines. Basically things like that. So I think there's a lot of potential with these start and stop scripts, not just making sure your cron jobs stay entered. All right, so I said we would talk about some use cases for the scheduler. One of my favorites is this. You can call, using a SIL routine, the re-indexing of Jira. And this would Yeah. So this would lock Jira and re-index all of Jira for you, and you can set that to run every night, and that way Jira is always clean. That's terrible. You're optimizing Jira for your clients each night by running the index, and they don't have to run it during the middle of the day and disrupt users. Another thing to do for services, batch jobs. So I've written services that perhaps scan LDAP and look for new users based on the company email address, and then if they find new users, they add them to Jira, so you can use services to create new users. And then once that user's created in Jira, you can add them to groups that would give them access to Confluence, and you can even call REST commands that would give them create HipChat accounts for them. You can use the SQL routines within PowerScripts to scan a database at night, scan database for your ERP or inventory system, and based on records in the database, you can dynamically create issues each night. Just a lot of potential for integration and batch processes with services. And there's nothing to know specifically about writing the script for a service. All SIL routines are available during the service. Services are not within the context of an issue. They are not at all. So you would need to use some methods where you can run a JQuery search, for example, and grab all the issues for your project, and I don't know, maybe close subtasks if the parent's been closed for a week or something like that. That's a good example of something you could do with the service at night you might not want to do during the day. And with that JQuery search, you could create an array of issues, and then you just loop through and you check the status of the issues and subtasks one by one. So very, very powerful. Get to know services.